Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Stryve Golf Podcast. Devin here. With me as always is Sean. Sean, how are you?
Freezing. I think we may have had our coldest week of the year in
Wow.
Salt Lake this week. It was miserable. So no, golf is no closer to being played. So still not great.
Well, don't
But
open
we're
your
holding
phone and don't look
in
at the
it.
St. George forecast for this week, or it may pour some salt on that wound.
Yeah,
75.
I've had to get rid of it in my saved locations because it gets a little
Smart
tough
move.
in the winter.
Ignorance is bliss at that point. That's a smart move.
Yeah, no, pumped to be here. And we have a new guest with us. We've got Dallas Dane with us, and he was funny enough, like with you, Devin, he was another one that I met in the Texas Dallas mission. I had the chance to be mission companions with him for a couple months, and I think it was a pretty similar story. We made the golf connection pretty quickly, and ended up having a blast together. And we've stayed in touch, and we're stoked to have him on the pod tonight. So, how you doing, Dallas?
Yeah, good guys. Thanks for having me on. It's takes me back to the good old days down in Dallas.
Oh,
Walking the streets and just talking golf and waiting for that time we could get back and go play together. It's fun to just jump back and chat some more golf.
I think with you, Dallas, that was the most golf I played on the mission, because I'm pretty sure we probably played 4 or 5 times, I would say, right?
Yeah, we did our best to plan our schedule accordingly and
no.
and look for every opportunity and we took advantage.
Luckily, and it was the area we were all together in, because Devin, you were companions with Dallas in the same place that he and I were, but it was probably the nicest city in all
Oh,
of
yeah.
our mission.
And a golfer's paradise. There's some sick courses there. So
Yeah, so many good
For sure.
courses. So yeah, we tried to. Those are the members we tried to get in with, were the ones with the country club access, and we were working those angles probably harder than we should have been, but it paid off for us at least. So
oh man.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was so jealous, man. Like I'd hear like we would, email and communicate some ways like throughout the week. And I don't know if it was the same time period, but it feels like I was abandoned out to East Texas and just so jealous and just barely hanging on, homesick, golf sick, everything, knowing you guys were playing golf. That was killer.
it's how I feel now, Devin, up here in the frigid cold of Salt Lake, while you're down golfing in St. George. That's how it was. That's how I'm assuming how it was. So
Pretty safe. Right? So we got empathy for one another. So Dallas, where are you calling from? So you were living in Vegas and then you're moving to Dallas. So you're in between moves right now, or what's the situation?
Yeah. So currently recording from Las Vegas. But yeah, in the process of moving actually back to Dallas. So I'm pretty excited about that. As much golf as we say we played, we still didn't, we barely scraped the surface of it. So I'm pretty excited to get out and explore and, figure out what all the area has to offer and get you guys to come down and we'll see if we can't, knock off a few of the best courses in DFW.
for sure. And I wanted to say Vegas wasn't a big enough city for you, right? You wanted to, as someone that grew up in a place called Malad, Idaho, with all of like 75 people, I find it interesting that now you're going to go live in a slightly bigger. Your progression in city size has been impressive, because it went Logan, Utah, Vegas, and now we're going to Dallas. So
it's got to keep getting bigger. You said grew up in a place with 75 people. It was close. It was 1,800 people, but it was 0 golf courses, and I think that was the worst part of it.
ooh, yeah,
So,
luckily we've both, Devin and I, we did have the privilege of visiting Malad, Idaho. So we could say we've been through. We doubled the population, I think, that day when we brought up our convoy. But
and you played all the golf that they have to offer by not playing any golf. So yeah, that's a prerequisite when I select the city that we're going to be living in, is there's got to be, at least 20 golf courses. So I think DFW will qualify.
A lot of golf and no winter, right? Because you've had enough of that.
Exactly. Yeah. North of Salt Lake City, I felt your pain for all those years. So Devin, you made a wise decision moving south. I mean, you're not far from Vegas right now in St. George. And I think we share a lot of the same weather. So
Yeah.
Continue to enjoy that.
Yeah. I'll do it for the both of us. Well, for the three of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming. And, when I heard about, Dallas and the mission, I just heard he was, a freak athlete and was going to, a D1 quarterback prospect. And I'm like, man, I gotta meet this kid. And luckily, your reputation, was up to par. Cause it was honestly one of the funnest times that we had, and a lot of conversations, and obviously a lot of, relatability there with sports and golf. But I'm curious, like for me, I don't even know if we ever really talked about this, kind of your genesis of golf and, growing up in a town that you did. What was it that was able to introduce you? Was it kind of similar to us, like with your dad and brothers, or what was the kind of the origin story of that?
Yeah. So it was difficult. Like, growing up, the closest golf course was about an hour away. And so, yeah, my dad and grandpa have played golf for quite a while. Always been into it, but just not being close to a golf course, it was a little more difficult if you were going to play golf, you kind of had to go out of your way and make a day of it. And so I didn't get to play a ton, but every time I got to go with them, I was just like, oh, this is the best. Like, you guys know, you get out on the golf course, and that first time that you get the ball off the ground and into the air, it's just like, it's the coolest feeling, and you just can't wait to go back and do it again. So yeah, my dad and grandpa got me into it. I really started playing my freshman year of high school when I got my driver's license. And that summer I got a job mowing greens, cutting holes, mowing fairways on the golf course that my grandparents lived on about an hour away. And I mean, that was the best. Get up and start work at 6 and work till 2 on the golf course. And then as soon as you were done, it was grab the clubs, throw them on a cart, and play till dark, and rinse and repeat. And that's when I really, really got hooked. It was one of the best summers ever, for sure.
Yeah. There's something therapeutic about that, because I did the same thing kind of when I got back from the mission. I did the same thing at River Oaks for a little bit. And that is still honestly one of my most enjoyable jobs that I've ever had. Was cutting greens, cutting fairways, and selecting the hole locations. And yeah, just starting at 6, being done. We were done at about noon, and me and Victor would go play pretty much all day. And he had the Hidden Valley hookup too. So it was a fun summer, but there is something, therapeutic about that. So I can relate there. That's fun. So Sean, you want to kind of introduce that? We'd love to have your golf. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're a couple episodes into this podcast journey of ours, but every time we've got someone new on, we like to put them on the spot a little bit and have them write a letter to the game of golf and kind of point out what it means to them. So turn the floor over to you, Mr. Degn. Share with us your letter to golf.
All right. Yeah. I feel like the longtime listener, first time caller here, after hearing everybody's letters to golf. They've been good. And there's a common theme amongst all of them, but everybody of course has their own, golf means something different to everybody. So yeah, I'm just going to jump in and we'll see where it goes. But dear golf, thank you for being an outlet. And I guess by outlet, I mean, when you're on the golf course, it's one of those things that I love, because I'm able to just free my mind of work, of whatever other things you have going on. And it's just kind of like, it's you, the golf, and the company. And I think that's really special. Like, those are some of the best memories that I have with some of my friends, like you guys, family members, just getting to spend that time together. You get to put away 4 or 5 hours to just play a game that you love, excuse me, and be with people that you love. And I think it's one of the things that I've been able to travel a lot over the last few years around the United States. And it's really cool to see how golf is, whether you're in Florida, New York, Utah, Nevada, golf is a language that people, you can strike up a conversation with complete strangers that you get paired with as a single, and by the end of it, you're best friends. And so I think it's a cool, bond that everybody that plays gets to share in. And so like, golf to me is just it's that outlet. It allows me to experience things with people that, like I said, those memories are awesome. And so golf to me is is really special in the relationships that it allows to create and the time to spend with those people. And then of course the game, super competitive. And so I love that it gives me the opportunity to compete with others, compete with the course, and compete with myself. And I think that's the thing I use it for most now is getting my competitive fix with myself, trying to set goals to get better. And so I appreciate the challenge that golf gives me, to try and improve upon myself round after round, or each time you go to the range. So overall, thank you, golf, for bringing me together with people that I get to share great times and create great memories with, and then allowing me to try and make myself better.
Man, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us, for sure. Yeah, no, I really love hearing everybody go through this exercise. And I think what's sticking out to me, kind of a common theme, is like the relationships you develop golfing, and then just the idea of being something that you can always improve on, right? I think that's what I would tell people if anyone finds like, oh, you golf, like, why do you play golf or whatever? I would say, like, those would be the two main things I would hit on. It's like, I think it's great for meeting people or developing friendships with people. And then it's just an activity that you can always feel that you can try to improve on. It's an ever-ending journey. And so I think it's been cool to hear other people kind of touch on those same things in their Dear Golf Letter, because it's a big part of why I love golf so much. So it's been interesting to hear, even though everyone's got a different background with the game of golf. I think a lot of the core principles of why we all enjoy golf are pretty similar.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. And it is interesting how, everyone has their personalized view of it. Like you said, there is like a foundation, kind of a set foundation of why we like to do it and why it brings us together. And every time it seems like when someone's doing that exercise, it's just hard not to pull from my own experiences and similar things that I've kind of gone through. And a lot of things that you mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, like that reminded me of like one experience that I just had this last summer when you're saying, it's interesting how you can get paired up with, someone completely random. And by the end of the 9 or the 18 holes, you can shake hands as like truly like a good acquaintance or like a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like really cool, because I had that this last summer. I went to go play. It was like a Friday afternoon. It was pretty busy. And I got paired up with another lady, another member there. Her name's Linda. She was like 85-year-old retired teacher from Iowa. And honestly, it was like one of the most enjoyable like 2 hours that I've had on a golf course in a long, long time. It was just the two of us hopped in the same cart. And it's like, what other activity could I do with 96-year-old Linda that I could honestly enjoy? And it was like 110, like super hot, but it honestly was crazy enjoyable. And I just like kind of thought as I was driving home, I'm like, that was a really cool experience, and one that, there's not a lot of other activities that I can share that with. So I love that thought. And that's something I think we, at least for me, playing with the same people a lot of the times, kind of take that for granted, and even sometimes shy away from, opening up those opportunities. But I think that's something I kind of take for granted. So yeah, I really love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this a little later, but like I get to play as a single probably more often than anything now. It's like a lot of the only time I play anymore is when I travel. And so that really has become a favorite thing of mine, just getting to know people as you get paired up with them. And it is a cool experience, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's just great for humanity, and being able to just have that exercise. So yeah, I think, speaking of that, was one of the reasons why, and we enjoy your company and your insight, but you're the travel and airline savant, man. So we have just a couple of questions to pick your brain on your area of expertise with traveling, as you've done that a lot, specifically, for golf or to play a course specifically. So kind of tell us about that, like like what you do, and just kind of the opportunities that it's presented with what you do, and folks, trying to make it as golf centered as you can.
Yeah. So out of college, I got a job with an airline, and the role that I have is called network planning. So the main goal is to decide where people want to fly and when they want to fly, and then build a flight schedule around that. And it's a lot of fun. One of the cool parts about that job is you get to research different areas of the country, and with my new airline, different areas of the world, and things like that, and trying to figure out why people go there. And every time I'm doing that, I'm always drawn back to looking at a certain city and going, oh, I've heard of a golf course there. I've watched a golf tournament there, and it always just comes back to that. So, but yeah, it's a fun thing to be a part of. Airline employees, we're pretty spoiled in the travel benefits that we get, and so yeah, I've really tried to put golf and those travel benefits together to try and do some fun things over the last few years. So
I love that, man, because I have such a love-hate relationship with traveling, because like I do it enough like for my job that like it keeps it
right.
interesting and I enjoy it. And before we had our little one, like my wife was able to come with me, and it was a big part of our relationship was traveling and going to different places, all domestically, but like that was a lot of fun. But obviously, the more you do it, especially if it's for work, like it can be, I feel bad for airline employees. It just, you're dealing with some pretty hostile people at times. So it's just like interesting, like the love hate that I have, but particularly like talking about the fun and exciting part of like traveling with specifically for golf. And I'm curious, like, do you have any, like, what's been like your favorite course that you've gone to and traveled to and played?
Um, okay, so I'm going to back up a little from that and kind of give Sean some credit here. So when we were on the mission together, I remember he got this newspaper article in the mail, and it had, I think it was a journalist from the Salt Lake Tribune had played every golf course in the state of Utah and written up like a little, excerpt on every single one of them and kind of given his thoughts. And Sean, I don't want to steal some of your thunder, but I know you're working on that same task for the state of Utah and nearing in pretty close. And so about a year, well, I guess it was beginning of 2020, I was like, I should steal Sean's idea there, and I should try and play golf in all 50 states. I have pretty easy access to get around the country, so I should try and make it a goal to play somewhere in all 50 states. So to answer your question, the favorite golf course that I've played as I've started to go around and kind of pick off some of these states was actually a little course in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was like 10 minutes from the airport because the flight schedule lined up that I could fly in, like midnight the night before, play golf the next morning, and then back out at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And I'm drawing a blank on the name of the course right now because it was such an in and out, but I just remember, I was paired up with these two guys for a 6 a.m. tee time. And it was just the coolest. Like, you always watching the Golf Channel growing up. Do you guys remember those Pure Michigan commercials that you'd see?
Yeah.
And I always was like, who goes to Michigan to golf? Like, it's so cold there. But yeah, I went there, and this course was awesome. It was huge trees, luscious course, rolling hill. Like it was awesome. The experience, playing an early morning round, and these two guys that I got paired up with, became great friends during the time, and they had traveled a little bit, so they were able to give me some advice on, maybe these are some courses you try in these states. But yeah, I wish I had the name of it to give them a proper shout out, but it was a course in Grand Rapids, Michigan, not too far from the airport. It was a pretty sweet experience.
That's awesome. I don't know, are you familiar with like the no laying up guys that do
Yeah,
their pure sauce in Michigan? Do you know if it was one of those that they did when they were
No, yeah, so it wasn't. I definitely
Oh.
watched that, 'cause when I heard they were doing Michigan, I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, maybe they've played the course.
That's
If you
funny.
give me a second, I'll
Yeah.
look up the name of the course.
I'm just curious because I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, I've never been there. But yeah, it's just like, man, when I think of Michigan, I just think of, like, I don't think golf isn't the first thing that comes to my mind. Like you think of the Wolverines, you think of, the terrible, the Lions, and that's pretty much it from my my experience. But my dad spent some time up there and always spoke really highly of it. But after watching that though, it's like that has potentially moved up pretty high on the list for a golf getaway, which is surprising, but also like what makes it so good. So yeah, I love that. That's interesting though. Michigan of all places.
Yeah, I mean, it completely blew away expectations. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go and get this one off the list. It'll take me 8 hours total to do it, and we'll get it done. But Quail Ridge Golf Club is what it's called.
Sorry,
Just
what was it
outside
called?
of Quail Ridge Golf Club,
Okay.
just outside of Grand Rapids. That
Shout out
totally
to
blew away expectations. So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was something that, because it's funny enough, just started watching that season of Tourist Sauce with the No Laying Up guys, and it's one thing that stuck out from me kind of in the early episodes is they're sort of giving some background on the area they're in that season, and just talking about how many golf courses there are in the state of Michigan. Because yeah, it's the same thought I had as well, where it's like you don't really think of a place that has as harsh of winters as Michigan does as being like a really good golf destination, and for having a lot of options to play, and especially it's a major city like Detroit, right? That's had such kind of hard times right through the recession like a decade ago. And so it's cool to hear that golf is such a big scene up there, and it's definitely got me interested in going to check it out for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty underrated area of golf, even though they've tried to tell us all along that those Golf Channel commercials, you guys should come up here. But I'm a believer of the hype now.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, kind of a similar vein. What would you say? Kind of a two-part question. What has been your favorite and least favorite airport to fly in and out of? And then, as a kind of a follow-up to that one, if you have golf clubs, what's been a good airport to travel clubs into or bring clubs into, and what's been an airport that's been a pain to navigate with the clubs?
Yeah. So I can definitely answer the least favorite one, and it's the least favorite to travel through and with golf clubs. So it covers both of those there, but it's Chicago O'Hare.
Oh,
I
attest. I absolutely attest.
It's the worst, man.
Cool.
It's always cold there. Your flight is usually not on time, even if you land roughly on time. And then, yeah, just the in and out, the terminals aren't all connected. I connected there one time between a domestic and international terminal, and I had to, clear security, pick up my clubs, go over to the other terminal, drop them back off, go through security again. So it just, yeah, I avoid O'Hare at all costs.
That I think O'Hare has permanently like tainted United Airlines for me. Like after my experience going through there a couple of times, the 2 times that I have missed both connecting flights, weather was terrible. Yeah, there's just that's funny. I strongly attest to that is the worst. But
yeah,
I'm a Delta guy too, though, so I think it's a little biased, but that plays part of it. So
no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, don't plan on getting through there on time. But best airport. So, Devin, you're a Delta guy, and as much as I hate to admit it, I haven't worked for Delta, but I'm also a Delta guy when I have to travel and actually pay for it, which isn't that often, but when I have to, it's usually with Delta. So my favorite airport, and I have to put an asterisk on this one, but it's Atlanta right now. It runs like a well-oiled machine. I've had many 40-minute connections there that are 4 terminals over, and the golf clubs still make the connection. And there's a Sky Club in every terminal that you can pop in and out of, and it's great. But Salt Lake is slowly creeping up there with the new airport. As long as you're flying Delta and you're not in the gates that are in South Logan or North Ogden, it's a pretty good experience. So I haven't gone through there with golf clubs yet. So that one's funny. The verdict
it's funny
is still out there.
It's funny you bring up the clubs, because I feel like the new airport, it's super nice and the flying experience is way better. But with golf clubs, it's more of a pain because they did the departures and arrivals are stacked right now. And so to haul golf clubs when you're getting picked up, you got to like go down levels and whatnot and trying to navigate to where you're getting picked up. And it's a huge pain. I remember when my dad and I were coming back from Bandon, it was the first time we'd flown into the new airport, right? Because it's a pretty new development. And we had no idea where to go. So we went to where we thought we were supposed to be, and we realized we were in the wrong lane of the road. And so we had to haul the clubs back up the stairs to cross the sky bridge to get back down to the proper level. And so, oh my gosh, it was a nightmare hauling the clubs with us there. So it's funny you bring up Salt Lake, because
so did the skis and snowboards come to the same place for baggage claim that the golf clubs do?
Yeah, so that's all. That whole
Yeah.
part's still super smooth and easy. It's just the getting it from the drop
Okay,
off
yeah,
point to the car is the pain. It'd be a little different if you were just parked in like either overnight parking or kind of the extended parking. But if you're getting picked up from someone, it was kind of a pain to navigate the sky bridges and whatnot to get the clubs down there. But it's just funny you mentioned that because like the one time I've flown the clubs into the New Salt Lake Airport, I was ready for a nap after the 20 minutes of hauling the clubs all over the parking lot. So
yeah. Well, then we'll keep Atlanta in the top spot then until Salt Lake can prove themselves. But as far as like the best experience of an airport going through with clubs, it has to be Phoenix. Either airport in Phoenix, Gateway or Sky Harbor. Like I think it's just the sheer number of golf clubs that go through those airports that the employees and the system there is just like set up to handle those. Like it's another walk in the park, and they kill it. So if
I
you have
mean,
to go with the clubs, Sky Harbor is the way to go.
golf is their number one customer of airline passengers flying through
Absolutely.
there. Got to take care of that crowd.
Yeah, and you know you have to ride the shuttle to the rental car facility at that place, and it's not uncommon to be waiting for the shuttle to come pick you up, and there's 40 people waiting to get on it, and 30 people have a golf bag with them. So it's I love flying into Phoenix. It feels like you're amongst friends as you're standing around baggage claim waiting for the clubs.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that leads in kind of the next question I wanted to ask. So I'm obviously now as we've gotten older and we've all had kids, it's obviously gotten harder to take extended golf getaways, right? I think the days of a 5 or 6 day golf trip might be behind us for a little bit while. But I think it'd be nice to get some insight. Say you had a weekend where you're looking at flying out maybe Friday night, coming back midday Sunday. Have you found any cities that logistically lines up that you can travel and get a decent amount of golf in and still make it back in a pretty reasonable time over a weekend frame?
So yeah, I think I'll probably answer this question a little differently in 6 months when I've lived in DFW for a little longer. Vegas is a little unique, right? Because we're so far on the West Coast that I've found that it's really easy to go to the East Coast because you can Friday night catch a red eye, and then you can play all day Friday or Saturday, all day Sunday, and then make it back back to the West Coast Sunday night in time for work Monday morning. So anytime I've had an open weekend, I'm always checking for what's available to the East Coast on a red eye. So a lot of Florida, a lot of New York, done Boston a couple times. So, but I'm probably going to be a little more spoiled living at DFW and being in the middle of the country, and it's like 2.5 hours to anywhere. So, I may have to check back in a little while and see if that's changed.
I just say from a traveling perspective, especially within the US, I don't think there's a better airport to be or area to be in than the DFW area because like you said, so centrally located and being as big of a city and as big of an airport as it is, you have no limit really to flights anywhere in the country, right? And it's nothing too crazy. Like you said, you could be at either coast within a couple hours pretty easily, I would think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty excited to have all the air service options that we're going to there. So, because, a lot of what drives my travel actually is, as an airline employee, you only get to go if there's a seat that's open. So, some of those more popular destinations like Phoenix in March or Las Vegas on a weekend, like there's never a seat open. There's usually the opposite. And so, a lot of what it is Friday afternoon, you're pulling up the flight schedule and saying, okay, where's the most seats open? Where am I going this weekend? And then, on the flight, you're booking your hotel and you're looking up reviews of golf courses to see where you're going to play. So I would say that's probably what drives actually more of my decisions as far as where I go is just where are the seats open so I don't have to pay for a flight.
Yeah, no, that's interesting too because I was going to ask, how do you pick what courses you want to play? Is it just kind of strictly what reviews of that you found, or you try to do some word of mouth stuff, or what's your process typically been?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was playing with those guys in Michigan, I always ask people for recommendations. Everybody loves to tell you about good golf courses that they've played. It's kind of like just a part of the game, sharing the good courses that you found, the hidden gems. So I'm always asking for good recommendations in a city. If I know somebody that lives there, I'll definitely reach out to them. But yeah, and then I love to go on, you guys mentioned No Laying Up. They have the Refuge, their message board. And it's got a lot of good local threads and travel threads. So I've picked some good ideas off of there. And then other times the turnaround is so quick from when the flights gets in, and the option to get home is that whatever's closest to the airport is what we're playing that day. So
Oh,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome.
Any I always like to, get the inside scoop on any pro tips that you have. The only thoughts that I could think of, like when traveling with clubs, is to unscrew the driver head, and then I always just wrap a bunch of shirts and hoodies around the shafts. But any pro tips to avoid any damages, or any other tips you got from your side of things?
I mean, I've had 3 drivers broken in the last 5
No
years.
way.
Yeah, every one of them on a certain carrier too, and I won't name that carrier. And I don't work for that carrier.
Put them on
either,
blast.
So.
No.
Well, to say that their bags fly free, so at least they have to pay to check the bag. So.
I mean, I
But,
don't want to say that. I don't want to say that my only damaged equipment has come on the same carrier. I'm not going to say it, but carry on.
Yeah. So no, I don't know. Pro tips. I mean, you've pretty much nailed it. The adjustable drivers have been one of the best things for travel, right? You pop those off, you throw them in your backpack, stuff as many soft items as you can in there around the top of the golf bag. I have noticed that more golf clubs get broken with hard case travel bags than soft case, just because the hard cover, right? Like the bag doesn't move, but the clubs move around in there. So yeah, that's I would
good,
avoid the
man.
hard covers. Yeah.
That makes me feel better. So
So
I just got the Titleist one. That's a soft one. So that's good.
yeah, there you go. So I mean, you sound like a pro already with the soft case and take the club heads off. But yeah, I mean, I think the only other thing you can do is say a prayer to the golf gods and the airline gods that when you show up, that
Please be
all
right.
14 are still in one piece.
I'm legit embarrassed when I travel with my club sometimes. So I went down to Phoenix a couple months ago. So I had a friend that was getting married down there, and we of course decided to play, right? Because what else do you do when you're getting married later that day, right? You got to go out and play golf in the morning. And so I flew in that same morning that we were playing. So he picked me up from the airport, and we went straight to the course. And I remember getting to the parking lot of the golf course, and I popped my suitcase with the clubs in it out, and it's just pulling out literally every towel I have in my house and just all sorts of random other stuff. And it's almost embarrassing, but it's like I've spent more money on golf clubs than I have a car, like, or any of the cars I've ever driven. And so it's like, I'm maximum protection that I can, but it is a little embarrassing when I'm pulling out literally 48 beach towels out of the bag.
Hey,
I
you
mean,
got to
whatever
protect
it
that
takes.
precious cargo.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So do you have anything on the agenda in the next couple months? I mean, I know obviously moving and young one at home has probably made life a little crazy for you, but anything that you've got on your list coming up as far as new states that you're going to go play in?
New states is really just Friday afternoon, Saturday morning. You look at the flight board and see what's open, and look at the map that I've colored states off and see what matches up. So I don't have anything planned. I kind of like to keep that spontaneous. It makes it a little more fun. I actually do have, at the end of March, I'm going to come back to Las Vegas after moving from Las Vegas and play Shadow Creek. So finally got the invite, and I'm pretty excited. I mean, that's out of my golf budget. That's about 3 years worth of golf budget to play that one in March. So I'm pretty excited to come back for that one. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those that it's like, you don't get to play that every day. So I think I might actually book a confirmed ticket to make sure I get here. And
get there.
I might even put 4 or 5 extra beach towels in there after hearing your story, and make sure the clubs make it all right. And yeah, so pretty excited for that. But as far as the others, I think, so when I started that goal of playing every state, it was, like I said, at the beginning of 2020. Obviously not a lot of travel in 2020 happened for.
Great time to start a travel goal.
Yeah, great time. So I think I'm currently sitting at 16 or 17 states. So
Wow.
all the progress that I made was in this last year. So
Nice.
got some states that I'm looking forward to crossing off, like the Carolinas. Haven't made it out there yet. Tennessee. So yeah, maybe one of those will happen in the next few months here.
That's awesome. That's a pretty good number. So as we were getting ready for this, now I was trying to think of how many states that I've played in, and it's mostly just the West Coast. So I think I'm at like 8 or 9. But yeah, I have not gone back east at all really to play, but there are some incredible courses back there. So I'm jealous of your airline hookup for sure.
So Devin, when you travel for work, do you take the clubs with you?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, like it just seems like with most of the times with my trips, there's just, yeah, it would just be pretty difficult. Like there's been times where obviously like I've, if I have like an open afternoon, I'll call and see if I can do it. And then like by the time, yeah, you kind of add up the green fees, the rental clubs and like all that stuff. It's just, yeah, it doesn't work out. So no, and unfortunately I haven't. So, and it's just, yeah, working in higher education, not a lot of deans that are, big into golf, which I always thought I'm like, oh, I could travel, maybe, expense it and, do some business on the golf course. But in that market, there's just not a lot of that going on. So yeah, unfortunately it's mostly just business, but yeah.
Well, another thing I wanted to bring up too, I remember, like the thing I'll always remember about hanging out with you, Dallas, when I first met you is like you were super interested in airports and travel, even back then before obviously you started working for airlines. I think it's really cool that you've been able to get into that industry just because it's something that you're obviously passionate about. So I think that's really cool. And the other thing I wanted to highlight as well is you are I'm pretty sure the only missionary in the whole world that had their own set, their actual set of golf clubs with them on their mission.
Yeah, probably.
I saw you have to tell us how that came about, because I'll never forget walking into the apartment like, wait, are those like your legit? Are those your playing sticks? Are those your gamers?
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely kept those hidden in the closet from most people. But when I found out we were going to be companions, I was like, oh, finally, someone who will appreciate it. So a couple of weeks ago, you guys, Devin, you were talking with Pierce about going out to Hawaii, and you guys didn't take your clubs, and I'm like screaming in the car like, oh my god, you didn't take your clubs? Like, if I'm going to play golf, I don't leave home without my clubs, because, and maybe this is probably 100% mental, but like I'm a little taller, so my clubs are custom fit a little bit, a little longer, a little bit different lie angle. So it's just like a mental block that if I play with rental clubs that are just like the off the rack specs, then I know I'm going to miss everything 40 yards right all day, even if I try and duck hook it. And yeah, so I have to do it. But yeah, the golf clubs ended up on the mission because when we found out that it was going to McKinney, I knew there was some good golf in the area and that there would be a possibility. So, I sent my mom an email one Monday and I was like, hey, if you can fit my golf clubs in a box and could ship them to me, I wouldn't be too upset. So yeah, I probably was the only one that had them on the mission, but they were shipped to me and then I flew home with them. So I don't leave home without them too often if I'm going to play golf.
Smart man. I'll never forget that too, because when I replaced him and I came in, that was the first thing I saw. I saw a set of golf clubs and I saw a bolted basketball hoop above the bathroom door. I'm like, this is a vibe. This is going to be a good transfer.
Oh man, I think the three of us definitely spent some late nights playing 7 on the line on that little basketball hoop
Little Sam.
and putting golf balls across the carpet.
Well,
I
it was
remember
we were
we
legit. We would hit golf balls out of the back
Yeah.
deck into the housing development behind that apartment complex too.
Yeah,
Dude,
there was an open field forever.
I was just about to say that. I remember I think I hit like the most lofted color, grabbed like a wedge, and I still bladed it right into that metal fence that was there. And I don't even know
Yeah.
where the golf ball went, but dude, it was jarring, but
Yeah.
a year or two of not swinging one, and it was ugly. But and then they put the houses up
Yeah.
there, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say I drove past there. I guess it was like a couple of years ago, and I was going through McKinney again, and I saw that empty lot we used to pound golf balls into, just full of cookie
there's
cutter
probably ones in that
suburban
foundation.
houses. I know. Like, oh, there's 30 or 40 golf balls buried out there. Those are good times, man.
Oh man, good
Yeah.
time.
So much
So,
fun.
Well, that's I appreciate this insight. And obviously, Dane, we want to definitely have you back and have some more. As we kind of, this is a hope for what we want for Stryve Golf, is to potentially document some of this stuff and travel out and play golf. And so we'll obviously want to have you join, participate, but also be the, travel the Dane way. So you got all the logistics, and
yeah, I'm
we'll
happy
just
to be your
follow suit.
travel agent.
You can bill us. It's fine. Just send the invoice.
I love it.
That's awesome. Anything else, Sean? Any other questions you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we hit on a lot of the main ones, and yeah, it's as someone who really loves travel, and it's not something I get to do as much as I'd like. It's nice to kind of have someone that's in the industry and kind of has those connections, because I think it's a lot of valuable insight to learn. And I think there's sometimes when you think of like traveling to play golf, it can come across a little overwhelming or whatnot. But I think really there's a lot of options out there. And like I said, with kind of like the weekend trips and stuff, there's a lot of ways that you can experience golf in new places without going too far out of your way, I think. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys have any recommendations for states that you've been to and courses that I need to add to the list? I mean, obviously we've got Utah covered, and
Yeah.
I love playing there with you guys. So.
Have you been to New Mexico yet?
I've been to New Mexico, but I have not played golf there yet. So that one's open.
I played a course in like northern New Mexico called Pinyon Hills, because we did like a road trip down through southeastern Utah, and we got down into New Mexico. So that was a really cool course, kind of out there ways, but that was a fun one that I would recommend. I don't know if I'll ever make it to New Mexico again, but that was a lot of fun. Trying to think what else. That's the other problem, like with primarily being on the West Coast and with how much you've traveled. Like I think you've hit all the states that at least I know I've played. So except for, you've been to Oregon, because you did was it what were the courses you played? Because you really like Portland. Was it around Portland?
Yeah, I've been to Portland. I can't count how many times. That's got my favorite golf course ever, Pumpkin Ridge. So I always make a trip back to Portland every summer that I can to pick off a Pumpkin Ridge round. But there's so much good golf in Oregon. That's another, I think, maybe underrated destination. Bandon gets a lot of love, and rightfully so. And Sean, I was so jealous looking at your pictures of Bandon Dunes, and just like one of the meccas of golf. But there's so many good places to golf in Oregon, along the coast, even in Portland and Eugene. Like there's just a lot of good courses. Like the environment sets up very well for it out there. Some of the greenest courses you'll ever play will be in Western Oregon.
For sure. Same lines too. I think there's a lot of good golf in Seattle as well. We played a couple courses up there.
Yeah.
Another one I haven't
as well.
I haven't been able to golf yet when I've been to Seattle. So seeing you guys in your Chambers Bay rounds has got me. It's got me looking for the next chance to get up there with the clubs.
It's the poor man's Bandon. That's what I'm shouting it out. I loved it, man. Like it's obviously my favorite, but because I haven't done a ton and haven't done band or anything, but that is like, it's an absolute must. And it's just, the course is sick, and to walk the same greens as Spieth. It's sacred. It's a sacred experience. It's so good. So that one's good. I will say, like, one of the really cool courses that I played towards the East Coast was it was in Lexington, Virginia. It was at Lexington Country Club. It's a private club, but I do think they allow for outside people to play. You don't have to be a member, but that was a really cool course. Like, low key pretty tough, like a lot of like way more hilly than I expected, a lot of undulation, but I hadn't really been to Virginia, so I didn't really know what to expect. But really cool golf course if ever out that way. That's definitely a good one too. But still,
I like it. Virginia is not off the list, so I got a recommendation now. There we go. Do you have an airport that is closest to you?
We flew into I'm trying to remember.
Was it like Roanoke?
It's been a little bit. It's by, is it Charlottesville?
Okay, yeah. Charlotte's where the University of Virginia is. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because I was actually out there when I was visiting. I was doing an on-campus visit for Southern Virginia, and the golf team took us out there. So yeah, that's how I went out there. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we flew in there, and it was like a 45-minute drive or something like that to the campus. But anyway, yeah, so that's like a recommendation for.
Yeah, appreciate the recommendation.
All right, anything else? Any final thoughts from you, Dane, on just with golf and travel and anything else on this topic?
I mean, it's just like it's one of my favorite things to travel for, is just to go and explore a new area of golf. Like there's just, while golf is the same everywhere, it's so different, right? Like you play in Phoenix, and it's so different than it is in Florida or than it is in West Virginia or Michigan. Like, so it's so cool to go and get and experience those, just the little subtleties of each local area and their courses and just kind of how everything plays. It's a lot of fun. Like the United States, all my golfing and travel mostly for the last couple of years has been domestic, and I mean, there's just so many opportunities that you don't have to go far from home, and you don't have to spend a lot of time or money to go find something really cool and memorable.
I love it. And I mean, I gotta ask, does the ball travel further in humid places, or is that a thing, or is that just total bogus?
So yeah, I don't know if you guys listened to the No Laying Up podcast, like I think it was a week or two ago, and the big debate about the humidity. I've never really noticed the humidity, but I noticed the elevation for sure, right? So like when I go back and play in Utah or Idaho or even Nevada a little bit, like the ball definitely flies further than it does when you're playing down at 40 feet of elevation in Florida and even in Texas. So yeah, it's I think you can notice it for sure.
Had to ask. You got the most experience here. I just know elevation and ball.
I mean, if I were good enough to hit my clubs the same distance every time, maybe I'd be able to make a little better comparison. But I think the distance variation is more user error than the weather.
than the climate. Oh, that's awesome. Well, good. Sean, you want to take us to just a quick recap? I mean, it's, again, in my opinion, the Honda is it's kind of an indicator, in my opinion, of what's some of the issues with the PGA Tour. You have such a good event coming off of like two really good events. You have Phoenix, you have Genesis, and it's like, you have something like this. But take us there. What thoughts do you have, and kind of just a quick recap?
Yeah. So it will be short because admittedly I watched all of 3 holes for the whole week. I just didn't watch any during the week. I don't even know what I did yesterday, but obviously wasn't watching golf. And then today the Jazz were playing this afternoon, so that had my primary attention. But caught the last 3 holes, and so what had happened was Daniel Berger, he started off with a 5-shot lead at the beginning of this round, so kind of assumed that he was just going to win pretty easily. But I guess he ended up losing that lead pretty early on in the round. Shane Lowry took control, and he was at the top of the leaderboard for most of the day. And then as we got down the last couple holes, it came down between him and Sepp Straka, and it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty crazy because Lowry was in the final group, Straka was up in front of him. So Lowry finished on 17 and he was going to 18. Just rain out of nowhere, absolute torrential downpour, which is wild because I don't think they're really expecting it. So you have Lowry sitting on the tee, trying to stay dry. And luckily, I think Straka, he had hit his tee shot maybe just before the rain or as it had just started. So it was still pretty dry. So he ended up bombing his tee shot in at 18, and it's a par 5. So he was able to hit iron into the green. So he 2 putts, makes birdie, takes a 1-shot lead over Lowry. Lowry's back on the tee box, who now needs to make birdie. At this point, he's been sitting in the rain. He was getting soaked, and I think it got in his head a little bit because he ended up, I think, rushing his tee shot a bit, trying to just hurry and swing to try to get back and stay dry. So he pulls his tee shot left, can't go for the green in 2, and then he ends up hitting his wedge shot to 45 feet or so and doesn't convert the birdie putt. So it was kind of crazy. You don't want to blame weather because like everyone's got to play against the weather, but it was one of
Not
those
in
things.
this
I'm
case.
just I'm reading an article right now, and he's quoted as saying it's as bad as a break as he's ever gotten on the golf course, where he felt like he was in complete control and he had that hole to play. And it was, I mean, on a normal day, it's a really easy birdie hole, but because that rain hit, he hit his drive a lot shorter than he normally would, and he pulled it as well, and he couldn't make the birdie. I mean, he still had wedge in his hand, still had a good shot at making birdie, I think. So it's not completely all on the weather. And to be fair, like Straka still had to stripe a long iron in a downpour from like 210 yards or whatever over water. So he still executed and hit the shot and was a deserved winner. And it's pretty cool. He becomes the first PGA Tour winner from the country of Austria. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was a little familiar with him because I remember watching him in the Olympics over the summer because I think he was in contention kind of after day 1 or 2. But what stood out to me just in the couple holes I watched, and then some of the numbers they're talking about, but this guy like bombs the ball. He's so deep off the tee. So yeah, it's a cool story. I think it's cool to be the first from a country to win on the PGA Tour. So
Yeah,
shout out him. But like you mentioned, it was kind of a down week and not a super strong field. And I mean, I don't really know. Like, obviously, there's big tournaments around it, but I just don't know if guys love the course a whole lot. But yeah, for whatever reason, a little bit of a down field, and I can't speak too much to the tournament, but the last hour I watched was pretty unique for a tournament.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I actually was entertained for the last hour on Sunday. I really was. Like, course is super hard, and just knowing that, you know, Berger comes with this huge lead, goes double, par, bogey, and it's just, you could tell it was pretty jarring for him. Didn't make a putt outside of 3 feet until 17. That par 3, he made a good par save there. And the only birdies he had was, I watched them both. He holed out of the bunker on one and then chipped in another one, and that was the only birdies he had all day. And so yeah, it was kind of crazy how Sepp Straka just kind of low key just kind of flew under the radar. And yeah, I think he caught that by being pretty early before the rain started to come down. Cause yeah, that bomb on 18, that was the furthest drive all week. Like, he absolutely striped it like 345, had like 200 in. So that was super impressive. And I didn't know who he was until when I went to the US Open at Pebble Beach. I just remember I was standing, he was one of the first guys that I saw. When I went up to the first tee, he was actually just making the turn. He started on 10, but I just was pretty shocked of like how commonly like small a lot of the golfers are. And then this dude walks up and he kind of caught your eye just because he was so big. I was like, Sepp Straka, I don't even know who that was. And I looked him up, and he's, knew that he was something about Georgia, man. Those University of Georgia, they just pump out some freaking golfers. But yeah, I think it was really cool. And that finish was was impressive because it was coming down pretty hard for him and the other guy he was playing with. And he just hit a really good iron shot there. And then he left that eagle putt right in the heart. It was just a couple inches short. So a really good birdie, but that really was really unfortunate for Lowry. And he, you could tell he just got under the umbrella, teed it up, smacked it. Devi snap hooked it, barely stayed in, almost went into the hazard, just had to hack it out. And you could tell he was a little shook and kind of pissed, and it was kind of unfortunate, but it was a cool win for him. And shout out to Keith Mitchell, like to sit around and just get soaked in the rain, because it was his roommate at Georgia, which is cool. But anyway,
what did they say on the broadcast? Like since 2000, I can't remember what year, but 30 or 40 tour wins or something by Georgia guys in the last couple of years. Like, I mean, obviously I know Oklahoma State's a golf power, but it seems like Georgia's really cranked out a bunch of PGA Tour winners. So
yeah, for sure. So it's impressive. But Dane, you catch any of it, driving across the plains and back to Vegas?
No, today I was doing one of my least favorite things and actually driving from one state to another. But no, I didn't catch much of the tournament from driving back to Las Vegas from Arizona. So
that's all right. This is an okay one to miss. But for this next week, it's a good tournament. I'm not excited to watch the highlight on loop of DeChambeau just double fist pumping it after he hit that drive over the water. And I had enough of that after the 80th time we saw it when you were actually down here, Sean. We were watching.
Yeah, I was saying
after that happened.
As much grief as we're gonna give it, we legitimately pushed off arriving for our tee time just to watch his tee shot. I think we had like an 11:30 tee time, and we were still sitting in your living room at 11:15 just so we could watch the tee shot. So as much grief as we say, like, it's still we were glued to the television.
And I had to get a seatbelt. I just, that homeboy's just gonna swing. I felt like I had to be strapped in. I had to take Advil after just watching it. But so I will give him credit there. 100% credit should be there as it's due. But I'm just not excited to see that highlight. But other than that, it's a pretty stronger field, invitational. So let's just make some quick picks there and go around and see what we got. Dallas, why don't you start us off, man? What's the first round draft pick in the Arnold Palmer? Who you got?
All right. Bay Hill. Like every time I watch it, I feel like it's somebody who's usually like a pretty good iron player who's up there. So I'm gonna go with the guy who used to be a local Las Vegan and practice out of TPC Summerlin, but we'll go with Victor Hovland.
All right.
Solid signing. Super hot player right now. Yeah. Continuing with my theme, if he's playing that week, then you can just bank on me picking him, Rory McIlroy.
Nice. I'm gonna throw a curveball. Max is playing in this, and I am gonna grow the stash for him, but I'm not gonna pick him. I'm gonna go with the stall. I'm gonna go with Hideki. Seems the guy is an absolute just ball striker fiend. So I'm gonna go with Hideki.
I like it. Let's see. Next, I'm gonna go Sam Burns. Just about as consistent as it gets over the last little while. So give yourself a chance.
Solid. I'm gonna go with Will Zalatoris. I think put on some yardage this year, and I do think, kind of your point, Dane, of course requires some good iron play, and I think guys that hit it a long way off the tee can benefit as well. So I go with Zalatoris.
I like it. I'm going to go with a guy who's won it before, the fiery, the always entertaining to watch. Going to see some clubs thrown, Mr. Terrell Hatton. I'll just never forget him just slapping himself on the back with the back end of his putter on his back, just after he probably missed like a 30-footer, and he was pissed about it and whacked himself. And I felt like I felt it. I was like, that does not look good. But
if I could get a microphone on just one player on tour, it would for sure be him. His self-criticism is second to none. He's very creative with it.
I don't even really, I'm gonna be full disclosure, I really don't I don't dislike him. I don't really like him that much, but I love to watch him play because
super entertaining.
Exactly. Like he gives you something, which I appreciate. So
I hope the Netflix documentary cameras are following his group regularly.
Just please.
All right. Let's see your next pick. I'll go the best nickname in golf, Fairway J, Tommy Fleetwood.
Nice. Looking for him to come back a little bit. He's been down for the last couple months, but hopefully your pick of him serves better than when I picked him earlier this year. So
I don't think he's won on American soil yet, so it's a bold pick. But
first time for everything. Speaking of first time winners, this guy just recently picked up ones. Scotty Scheffler. I think he's been playing really well this year, and I think, of course, similar to the ones he's had success at. So see what he can do for me this week.
Like it. I'm gonna go with a more experienced guy. Lee Westwood. Seems like he always, last year that Florida swing, man, he had like 4 or 5 tournaments, so he was right there. So I think he'll continue that. So I'm gonna go with Lee Westwood.
All right, and then the last pick, the flyer pick, I'm gonna go with the South African Dylan Fratelli. Sure. Throw a dart at the dartboard and see what happens.
You hate to see that pick. I hate to see that pick. But we discussed some of that offline. Well, I'll save it for offline, but that's all right.
All right. For mine, I'll tell you who I'm not picking. I'm not going with Matthew Wolf again after his
opening
dead last finish this past weekend. So I'm not going to pick him for a while. I will go with Cameron Young. He was in contention at Genesis, and first time I really watched him. Really like his swing. Got a little bit of a pause at the top, but hits the ball an absolute mile. So see what he can do this week.
I like it. I'm not gonna say I don't get the MLB sponsorship though on some of those things. Multiple guys have it, and it's just like I don't understand this. I might be missing something.
I wonder since MLB is locked out right now, is he getting paid for that sponsorship?
It's all about cashing those checks. I'd wear it too. So I'll go. The sleeper pick is Hudson Swafford. Guys seem to me always flushing it, and is kind of in that southeast vibe. So those are our picks. So Sean will take note and let us know who wins. Shout out to Pierce for winning last week. We thought Berger was going to go coast to coast, but he got a little shaky there. But anyway, anything else? I know there's obviously, we could go for days. There's so much more that we could talk about. I know we've been on for a while, so we'll wrap it up. Again, the Saudi thing and what happened with Phil Mickelson this week, it just keeps on keeping on. But we're gonna have a dedicated pod just for that, so we can we'll sit back.
Once
we'll
all
let
the
Sean
once
get
all
on
the
that
dust
soapbox, and
once all the dust settles, yeah.
But so much more we could talk about. But anything else, boys? Any other shout outs or anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just I thought this was interesting. And this will be part of a bigger discussion. I think we brought it up a little earlier of like what we think the PGA Tour could do better. Like, how do we get rid of some of these events that have such weak fields? So I just think it's interesting that Honda was a super weak field this week, but there's an event tomorrow at Seminole Golf Club in Florida. It's this uber private course that a lot of tour players are members at, but they've got their pro member event there tomorrow. It's just a 1-day event, but listen to some of the names that are playing and contrast it with what we just saw in the Honda.
Give it to us.
So we got Rory, DJ, John Rahm, JT, Bryson, Patrick Cantlay, Kevin Kisner, Ricky Fowler, Sergio, Louis Tazen. I think I saw Cam Champs in the field. Nelly and Jessica Korda are playing in it.
Wow.
So it's just wild to me that
wow.
And we'll obviously get into this of like what could the tour do to try to make all their events more competitive. But I just think it's interesting that you could have such a down week, and maybe people would say, oh, it's a schedule congestion thing, but then have all these people sign up to go play in this pro member at Seminole. So wow. It's interesting. I'm going to be following it tomorrow.
Are they airing it
it's not, I don't think it's on TV, but there's enough, I think, golf media members that might be on site that I'll probably just be following along on Twitter just to catch some updates. But yeah, I just thought it was super interesting that literally the next day after a super weak field, you've got
They're all there.
a super loaded field playing in a non-tour event. So
Imagine like the Tuesday league at Seminole.
Oh,
It's like playing in a WGC on a Tuesday afternoon.
I was gonna say that the money comps are gonna be pretty close to a WGC. What's gonna be
Yeah.
exchanged in the clubhouse afterwards? So it's a whole different world. But love it,
those
man.
guys
Dane,
are
any
those guys are playing with piles of cash that I'll never the bank account will never max at what the cash those guys are dealing with on a week to week basis there.
just for a single skin. Any shout outs from you, Dane, that you want to give out?
Yeah, I just want to give you guys a shout out. I've loved every week waiting for the pod to come out, and first thing in the morning downloading it and listening to it on the way to work, and it's awesome. It takes me back to those days walking the sidewalks in Dallas and McKinney, and just those golf conversations we'd have, and helping the time pass by. So it's you guys are killing it. Keep it up.
Love it, man. That means a lot. Thanks. And again, you're credit to that and everyone else that's kind of shaped our golf experience. And we love it. We love the participation. We love that people are listening. It means a lot. And we just want to continue that. And so as many times as we can have you, we'd love to have you back and participate in some of this stuff. Cause it has been low key, a ton of fun. Like, yes, this was created as like a creative outlet for us. But I am surprised how much I look forward to it. And just how much fun we have. And it's just this one aspect of the pod. So anyway, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming and we'll definitely have you back again, no doubt. But
Anytime, man.
So all right, well, we'll wrap up again. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll do this again next week. So
peace.
keep driving.